the issues that they are raising about fair distribution of the kits, to me, they are being unfair. In fact, when you go deeper into that argument, you'll see they are being people who are tribalistic in nature. In fact, it appears their philosophy, this election, again, will be the 41 against 1, because when they start comparing and contrasting Kiambu vis-a-vis Kilifi, Murang'a vis-a-vis I don't know which other place, to me, they appear to be saying you don't have ODM supporters in Murang'a. Who said so? They don't have ODM supporters in Kiambu, which is wrong. Every person who is registering in Murang'a is as Kenyan as a person in Kilifi. The issue should have been, if I were them, to ask, why is it that maybe in this region we have fewer kids? But when they start doing this notion of comparing and I don't know, and bringing differentiation, it is unfair. Every person who is in Kiambu, every person who is in Kilifi, or in Kisumu is a Kenyan who deserves to be served. And I'm sure once we are able to reach that stage where we have sufficient funds and continuously and progressively we are allocating more and more money to the IEBC, each and every person is going to register. In any event, by the way, to the best of my knowledge, as we speak, they have the highest number of people who have registered in their so-called zones, which to me, zoning Kenya is somehow setting up this country into some form of ethnic conclaves.
No, of course, issues being raised there on the method or the comparisons that are being drawn by the opposition.
I hope you'll allow me to respond to all of them.
In the shortest time possible, because we're not doing very well for time.
Let me begin with Madam Nyabuto. Independence is not mutually exclusive with transparency or the need to conduct a free and fair process, which is the mandate of the IEBC. Let's interrogate this issue of funding. That actually brings in the executive. The Speaker 2 days ago ruled that, there was a motion brought to the floor of the House to reconstitute the Budget and Appropriations Committee, which was defeated. The Speaker then ruled that the House Liaison Committee will oversee the budget-making process until 6 months have elapsed when the motion can be brought to the floor of the House afresh. Who are the chairmen of the 12 departmental committees in the House Liaison Committee? All of them are Jubilee affiliated members of Parliament. So Jubilee is in full control of the budget-making process. And I want to bet you here today, I can put money on it, that no further funding will be appropriated to the IEBC as has been suggested. And this is because the executive and the Jubilee members of Parliament are direct beneficiaries of the inefficiency of the IEBC. They benefit if the IEBC doesn't work. And I find it shocking that Mheshimiwa here says that we are zoning the country. He forgets that barely 3 years ago, they were traversing the country talking about the tyranny of numbers. The tyranny of numbers in the Rift Valley and the tyranny of numbers in central Kenya. We cannot shy away from the discussion of the disenfranchisement of voters in certain parts of this country, the marginalization of Kenyans in certain parts of this country. Let's take it a bit further. Bomet County has a voter target population of 10,000 people, yet it got 100 BVR kits. 10,000 people, 100 BVR kits. Mombasa, on the other hand, has a target of 157,000 and got 62 kits. Where is the equity? Where is the fairness? Where is the transparency in this process? And these are the issues that we're trying to have addressed. But the Jubilee side of the political divide is crying louder than the bereaved. Why? Kenyans need to ask themselves, why is Jubilee so concerned that the IEBC does not perform its constitutional mandate? And to take it even further,
let me just stop you there. When you say Jubilee is concerned that they don't perform their constitutional mandate, validate that. What do you
mean? Me validate that using the words of Mheshimiwa that he has used just here right now. That Kenya does not have the money to appropriate to the IEBC for them to do the process wholesomely. And yet, we know, barely in December, Kenya was supposed to have received, or at least they've alleged, $2 billion US. That's 200 billion Kenya shillings from the Eurobond proceeds. If those proceeds did indeed come to the country, the IEBC asked for 2 billion out of 200 billion.
Okay.
That's 1%.
I want to stop you there
Does
because
Kenya not have the funding
I
for
want
this?
it to be very clear to also our viewers. When
Yes.
you say that it's the Jubilee government that is doing that, yet we also have members of parliament from the opposition sitting in parliament, yet it is their responsibility as members of parliament. It is not just the Jubilee MPs, it is also members of parliament from the opposition.
I'm glad you said that. You've heard the Jubilee side of the political divide refer to the tyranny of numbers in parliament, the tyranny of numbers in the country. They use this tyranny of numbers in parliament to defeat the resolution, the motion, bringing forward to reconstitute the Budget and Appropriations Committee. Jubilee, as I said, is in full control of the House Liaison Committee that is now going to oversee the budget-making process. 12 out of 12 chairmen in the departmental committees are Jubilee members of parliament. So they're the ones who are going to decide whether IEBC gets additional funding that they have requested. And
can I interject there? Allow me.
Okay.
That Kenya does not have enough money.
All right.
Where is $2 billion?
Mheshimiwa Irongo.
My interjection is only limited to the issue of what happened in parliament in regard to the issue of that budget committee. The people who moved members to vote against that motion are called members. It is there in Hansard, it is there in record, it was recorded in public TV. It is members of the opposition who led that onslaught against budget committee. Surely, how do you then blame us, Jubilee? It is them who mobilized members. In fact, it is on record that the leader of government business, that is Mr. Duale, was opposed to that move. So, it is them who gave that opportunity for now budget matters to be handed over to the liaison committee. So when you come to this, to a public forum like this one, and you mislead Kenya, that it was us who made that move. No, it is not us. That move was purely orchestrated by the members of the opposition.
Okay.
I take great exception to what he has said, that that Jubilee is a beneficiary of the inefficiencies in the commission. I think that needs to be withdrawn with all due respect, because let's actually separate party issues and an independent commission's functions. I think it's very important because we are on national TV. One inch listening from all across the divide in this country. And we want to preach peace, we want to preach harmony, we want to prepare for 2017. I think we've just watched Uganda a few minutes ago. And we know what has happened in Uganda in the past. Civil strife, okay? There's been a lot of political tension and so on and so forth. We don't want to get into that level. I think discuss an issue as it is. If it is about BVR kit distribution, bring it to the table. Come round, let's discuss and have a collaborative discussion, as opposed to now bringing in and injecting in issues to do with perception by one party or the other and inefficiencies on the other hand, being something that it is riding on. I think that is actually in very unsavory taste, I must say.
Okay.
But again, just in finishing, I want to say that the issue of BVR kit distribution has been made public. It's on our website. We've had discussions, and I thank the media houses because just before the launch of mass voter registration, we had various people going to radio stations, vernacular, TV stations, and so on and so forth, basically discussing the demographies of having these kits distributed. So I think it's public knowledge.
Okay.
And the issue of Bomet that he has raised, I want to respond to that. During the discussion that we had, we flagged that out and said you're going to address it. So that's the reason why we have discussions. And that's the reason why the commission was open to have CORD come to the boardroom, have a roundtable, collaboration on that issue. So I think we need not take some of these issues to, sort of like exaggerated levels for purposes of basically just creating and attracting unnecessary attention and diverting people from voter registration and creating other emotions within the public. I think it's actually not right.
She has referred to me.
Yes.
I think it's only fair that I respond.
All right, we'll respond because I want to hear from Jabez in just a bit, but just response to what she has said.
Okay. Whenever I engage with the commission and they ask me a question such as which she has asked, to withdraw a statement. I always ask them a simple question. I say that Jubilee is a direct beneficiary of the inefficiencies of the commission. She says she takes great exception to that. And I challenge her. Can the IEBC produce one principal register that was used to vote in 2013? To date, we do not have that. To date, we do not know who voted and who did. And the only way to do so is through the production of the register. There were 3 different registers that were used It kept remaining a moving target. So asking us to withdraw a statement, an assertion that Jubilee is a beneficiary of the inefficiencies of IEBC, I cannot do so until they assuade and allay some of these concerns through an open and transparent process, as is the constitutional mandate. And then furthermore, she's saying that the issue of BVR kits is public. Public it is, and that is why we're opposed to what they have put forward, that you cannot register square kilometers, you register people. You cannot register landmass, you register people. Kitui, which has the largest number of registration centers in the country, 1,318, has 242 BVR kits. How are they supposed to cover this territory in 30 days?
Okay.
These are issues that are yet to be addressed. And she's saying that the commission has addressed the demographics of this issue. I put it to her that this is false, because she put it forward at the beginning of the conversation that it was purely land surface area. And I can even give you the criteria. Polling wards with less than 30 square kilometers got 2 kits, 30 to 50 got 3, more than 50 upwards of 4. That's the criteria that they use. So telling us that they factored in demographics is being conservative with the truth.
Could I just respond very quickly?
Because we need to take a break.
Yes, because what I said is that the ward as a unit is a constitutional electoral boundary that has been demarcated, taking into account population and demographic trends. Please make reference to the Constitution.
Yes, Article 29.
Let her finish.
Yes, I also want to state here that we have discussed the BVR kit allocation. So I think going round and round about this issue, we cannot extract blood from this stone anymore. We only have such an amount of funds and such an amount of BVR kits, and the demographics in this country are well known. Look at a county like, look at a place like North Hall. Okay, it's so vast, and that is the reason we said 5,000 kilometers and above, 5,000 kilometers squared and above, they now have 8 kits. Initially, under the 500 million allocation, they had only 4 kits. But when we had additional funding from the donors, we then were able to double that. And a place like North Hall now has 8 kits. And that's what we can do with what we have at hand.
Okay.
Yes.
Maybe as we wind up, Javas, it looks like even just the voter registration exercise can be very, they create a lot of emotion. And when we look at the political class, if I can call it that, there seems to be a tone and a language that could divide this country. How do we ensure that this does not continue? As much as we have to get points across, we need to ask the relevant and the right questions without polarizing the country.
Man by nature is a political animal, and any political issue is potentially emotive, and largely so. And it's even evident from the deliberations here, the deliberations that are carried over the media, and even at political rallies. And it is also apparent that still there are very many concerns from various stakeholders that possibly to avoid all these kind of critical questions that may still arise or potentially arise in the run-up to the election, or possibly even after the election, that all the players, in the interest of the progress and the peace of our nation, come together to make sure that if it is our desire to have a smooth electoral process, a voting exercise that is, impressive to everyone, every observer and every stakeholder, that the key player here being the IEBC moves expeditiously to make sure that it addresses all the concerns raised by every party.